My next guest, you know, she is a former title challenger in the UFC, Liz Carmouche. She's going to be taking on Lucie Pudilova at UFC on ESPN3 on March 23rd. Liz, how are you this morning?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Now, we're recording this on a Wednesday. What does a typical Wednesday look like for you?
Typical Wednesday isn't as intense as the rest of the week.
Okay. Is that like more of a rest day, I guess?
No, not at all. No, but the morning just starts a little bit later. I get to start off with an hour and a half of swimming, doing underwater torpedo league and deep end fitness, which is a lot of trying to utilize CO2 under duress, do everything underwater, grappling underwater, doing lunges underwater, long 50-meter walks, things like that just help your lung capacity. Then I shoot straight back to my main gym. We do 45 minutes to an hour of conditioning. So that's running hills, doing park workouts, intense, crazy stuff like that. Then I go right back to the gym, do hour and a half of jiu-jitsu, strength and conditioning, and then jiu-jitsu again.
As soon as you said that underwater stuff, it reminded me of that clip of BJ Penn with the Rock running underneath the water and everything. How long have you been doing that? That sounds actually pretty beneficial.
It's really beneficial. It's something that I actually took over with Alima Leigh McFarland. She was doing it, and she and I are always kind of like hey, let's check this out. If it works out really well, I'll let you know, bring you in. And this is one of those things where she's like, yeah, you should definitely check this out. So she's been doing it, I want to say for maybe 6 months. I haven't been doing as long, maybe 3 months. And such an improvement. Lung capacity, my cardio's through the roof. Like I'm smoking everybody. Whenever we do any of these cardio exercises, I'm breezing through it. And I'm able to 8 hours a day in conditioning and putting all these workouts without feeling duress because of this underwater training.
That's awesome. Well, that's good to hear. Maybe you kind of gave away your secret. We'll see if more fighters take suit with that, but that's still very cool. It's been a bit since we've seen you in the cage. The last time you fought was in July. Any particular reason for the layoff?
No, not at all. I've been begging the UFC to get me back in there. It's just another one of those things where for some reason I'm just not able to get a fight. As we started kind of doing a little bit of digging, because we're really like, guys, I'm healthy off this last fight. Why can't I get a fight? And what it really came down to was that I won that last fight by decision, and that all the other people in the division are scared to say yes to a fight.
Oh, really? Well, so is that frustrating, or do you take that as a compliment? Like, wow, people know how dangerous I am.
At first, it was really frustrating because I've been in scenarios where I have injuries, and I was told they're like, either you can sit on the bench or you can take this fight. And I was given no other choice. So I'm like, well, I want to fight. It's just I'm injured, but okay, I guess I'm going to fight anyway. And so I'm like, wait, so these girls are healthy and they can say no. I was injured and couldn't say no. So it was a little bit frustrating then. But at the same time, I'm like, well, that's definitely an advantage because I'm in their head. If they're scared to fight me, at some point it's going to happen. And I already have one thing against them going in my favor.
And let's talk about that last fight. It was a decision, but a great win over Jennifer Maia, and your first win at Flyweight. How happy were you with your performance? And it must have been nice to finally get that first win at 125 in the UFC.
Yeah, it was really nice to, just that weight cut to 125. It was the second one. The first one was, if anything, it's your first time trial and error. And the second definitely felt like I figured it out. My body adjusted to it. It really liked going down to 125. The only thing that was going against me on that is I was so sick. I had a fever that week. It was almost so bad that my wife wanted me to go to the hospital because she was really concerned because I couldn't stop coughing. And I was just like, I have energy, I swear. She's like, okay, get out of bed. And I couldn't get out of bed. And so here I am, fight week. And she's like, I don't know how you're going to do this fight. I'm like, I'll do it. I'll pull it out. It'll be fine. And every time I'm around, my coach is like hiding the fact that I'm coughing, or like, oh no, I was just in the shower. That's why I'm so hot. It's not that I have a fever. So going into that fight, I was a little bit concerned just because I was sick and I wasn't able to put on the performance because of the high altitude and fighting off illness. But to go against somebody who was holding the belt in Invicta, doing a phenomenal job there with her entry into the UFC, and to take on that win and get in my favor was definitely a good way to start off my 125 career.
Let's talk about your opponent here, Pudilova, 8-3 record. How do you feel like you match up against her here?
I think it's a great matchup. She's up-and-coming fighter. She's well known for being in Prague, and she's definitely not somebody I'm going to say that it's going to be an easy fight. There's not a fight that I've ever been given that's easy. So I know that her striking is really good, and her ground game, she's good at anti-wrestling. She's good on the ground, so I'm looking forward to being challenged in every area there.
And let's talk about your training camp. I feel like when it comes to women flyweight fighters, you guys sort of have the all-star team over at San Diego Combat Academy. Pearl Gonzalez, Alima Leigh McFarland, who you referenced. How has camp been going? And it must be a lot easier because those two women I just mentioned have fights coming up.
Yeah, it definitely. When we're all in training camp together and we all have that same goal, we're in there committed to the same thing. So it makes our training, instead of having to invite people like, hey, do you mind sparring me? Please come in and compromise your body. We don't have to worry about that. We're all doing the same thing, or all sacrificing for the same thing. So it is great because we can also help each other. Like, hey, I was struggling here. Where were you doing great in this? And so we can all help improve each other when it comes to these fights. So it is great to have two training partners in fight camp at the same time. And I've also been able to branch out. This is the first time that I took off from work to make sure that I'm well rested for the fight. So it allows me to go do things like underwater training and to go to other gyms like the Arena and work out with Charles Martinez and his team and Vince Salvador. And to have open arms for all these other places has been really great because I'm getting new bodies and new experiences that I feel are really improving my game.
So compare this training camp to the training camp before, because you were working. Like, how has that changed in terms of the hours? Like, how much more time are you able to put towards, the other things like you mentioned, the underwater training?
It's completely different. So before I was scheduling in, we'd pull me out like, oh, okay, well, it's a little bit dead in the gym right now. Let's pull you out and let's do mitts. Or, hey, it's stiff right now. We can do a private for jiu-jitsu. So I was definitely still getting in the hours, but there was no rest time. I was at work straight into training, work, training, almost no sleep, and then coming home and I'm my wife and my 3-year-old. So trying to give them time. So I was just dead all the time. 7 days, there was no rest. Whereas now it's like, oh, okay, I had a training session. I can sit down and relax before the next one. And that just wasn't happening. I've noticed in my recovery how much that's made a difference. And it has exactly that, to be able to go out and branch to do underwater training, to be able to go to different gyms like the Arena or go see the Alliance, places like that, and get different training experiences in, which I really needed to grow to be the best fighter I can today.
And how's the cut going this time around for this training camp?
Way easier. In fact, I've had to kind of keep my weight up this last month. I've been struggling it's just been dropping off so fast. I'm like, okay, this is too fast. I don't want to go in there and be like, hey, I've been 125 for a month now. So I think part of being able to recover and do everything right has definitely helped in this weight cut.
How do you see this fight unfolding on March 23rd? Obviously, you signed the contract, so you feel like you're going to win, but how do you see it playing out?
You know what? The great thing is one thing I'm doing different too is just picturing this fight. In the past, every time that I sit down, I picture it. It's been too much. My adrenaline goes through the roof, and it's Mortal Kombat finishes and just unrealistic. This time, I've done a lot of mental focus with Prime Hall from the Underwater Torpedo League, and he's really helped me kind of put things in perspective. So I'm going to sit back and really envision all different aspects of this fight. And the great thing is I'm seeing more realistic finishes instead of like jumping up on the cage and ripping off a head and crazy nonsense. Whether it be a knockout, whether it be a submission win. And I definitely see it going to a finish. It's not going to go to decision this time. It's going to be a finish for this fight.
And, realistically, how close do you think you are to a flyweight title shot? I know that's crazy, but it is a newer division. We're seeing a lot of, names sort of emerging out of there. And I think you're one of them, especially, marquee fight here. How close do you think you are, without looking past your opponent, of course?
Well, with this fight coming out with the finish win, I think, the only thing really that was holding me back in the past was I was going to decision too often. And as long as I can come out with a strong finish, I know that the title is just right there.
You mentioned, being a family person. Obviously, you got the wife and the kid and everything. What's downtime looking like for you? Because that is something you said you get the rest time now. What are you doing? Like are you getting to watch any Netflix or any doing anything sort of to help you relax in between training camp and everything else?
Yeah, I've actually been doing a lot more reading. So reading things like David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me. So books like that have really putting things in perspective and really focusing on mental focus. Or downtime is playing with my son and building different crafts that he has, or imaginary dinosaurs, or just resting with my wife and talking about our day. So I actually have downtime to spend with the family, or just have my own introverted time to just re-energize it and get back into it.
Liz, I want to thank you so much for the time today. It was great getting a chance to catch up with you. Just remind people where they can find you on social media, and if you have any sponsors or shout outs, the floor is yours.
Yeah, they can find me on Twitter and on Instagram as I Am Gorilla. On Facebook, Liz Carmouche Official. And I'd really like to see a big shout out to Charles Martinez from the Arena and Vince Salvador. They've been helping so much throughout this training camp, and I really appreciate them sacrificing their time to be able to help me. But my coaches that are always there is Bill Crawford, Manolo Hernandez. They give me everything they have all the time, and I'm really grateful for that. As well as Richard Martinez, who's been helping my ground game so much this fight camp, which I'm really excited to utilize and show off. And then Prime Hall from Deep in Fitness and Underwater Torpedo League, because I'm really seeing the benefits of going, not only the mental side of that, but just the physical benefits from branching out into that avenue.